Good evening, fellow hunters, and welcome back to Bloodborne. Last time we made a foray into the Forbidden Woods, and ended up finding ourselves all the way back at Central Yharnam behind Yosefka's clinic, and saw the truth of what she was doing to the people she was purported to be rescuing. So again, a good thing we didn't send anyone there. Before we head back into the woods, let's change up our equipment setup a bit. Poison is pretty clearly going to be an element in the woods, so an armor set with high poison resistance, such as this Black Church Doctor set, would come in very handy. We will also be backing up the stake driver with the rifle spear, both of them powder keg weapons. Since there aren't any items that are particularly worth purchasing at this juncture, let's spend all of our blood echoes on some levels then. Strength would increase the damage of the stake driver, but so would skill, and skill will also increase the damage of the rifle spear, so a few points in that is the best idea. The rest is going into Blood Tinge. This won't be useful immediately, but it's preparation for the future, shall we say.
Farewell, good
Oh
hunter.
yes, and as part of a request from someone from either the thread or the YouTube comments, I don't quite remember which, probably the thread, I'll be trying to show off sidearms other than the Hunter's pistol a bit more, starting with the Hunter's blunderbuss here. So let's get back to the Forbidden Woods then, into this especially Resident Evil 4 evocative area. This part of the Forbidden Woods and that one area in Central Yharnam are really aping hard on the original village from Resident Evil 4. By no means a bad thing, of course. More games could do to take influence from Resident Evil 4. By now, we're well familiar with these variants on the Yharnam Huntsman, so rather than talking about them, let's discuss the weapons that we've been using for a bit. The stake driver and then the rifle spear. Both are powder keg weapons known for packing an explosive kick. With the stake driver, this comes in the form of its transformed charged R2 attack, which holds back and then releases the stored blade, creating a powerful explosion if charged all the way. Though incredibly powerful, it can be difficult to land this move due to its short range, a flaw that is overall the greatest flaw of this weapon in general. But this flaw is more than made up for by the weapon's quick attacks and surprisingly solid damage, and in the case of the charged R2, incredibly high damage, as you can see there. Overall, it's fantastic for dealing with one or a few small enemies, or the absolute largest of enemies that also tend to be somewhat slow in comparison to the smaller enemies, at least, like the bosses. But it does fairly poorly against larger groups of small enemies, or the medium-sized large enemies that tend to be quick, as well as difficult to stun. One last point I'll make with regards to the stake driver is that when using its charged explosive R2, you'll often see that I unlock and tilt the camera upwards a bit. This is because it is actually easier to hit with the attack if you do this. The hitbox is such that if you aim it upwards, it actually extends its outward distance by a tiny bit, and it really does help considerably with actually hitting enemies with it. At any rate, now that we've dealt with the villagers in this village, it's time to press onwards, but the path forward doesn't look too terribly pleasant. Filled with nasty, legless corpses and streaked with a path of oil made all the more dangerous by the multiple Molotov-throwing huntsmen high up above where they cannot be reached. So let's head back a bit and see if we can't find a better path forward. Well, that could be called a better path forward, but it's one we'll have to unlock from the other side first. So back to searching. This is not a path forward, but a path backwards, and one that cannot be used from this side. If, at the crossroads with multiple paths, you were to head straight forward, this is where you would come to. And if you were to stand on that wooden platform above, it would collapse, sending you straight into the middle of all the huntsmen here. So, let's just trigger this trap right here, and see what's up. For whatever reason, they have carrion crows in the pit. I'm not sure if they put them there as a trap, or if they were just feasting there from all the previous victims, but their placement here is a tiny bit odd. You would think there would be spikes at the bottom or something more effective. And more to the point, you wouldn't think there would be a ladder allowing you to get out, but I guess the huntsmen here aren't very intelligent at designing traps. So let's head back to a part of the village that we explored in the previous episode, but not to its fullest, as we went down that side path into the icky poison swamp that ultimately led back to Central Yharnam. This guy is an especially rude dude, shutting the gate on you and leading you into this trap here. This is why you want to take out the dogs first and foremost, no matter what you do in this part of the level. If you don't, it gets quite hairy. Facing all of these dogs at once is not a pleasant prospect for sure. But the rifle spear, once it gets its hit in, makes quick work of them. As an aside, once the dogs have bust out of their cages for the first time, they're free to come out of them any time in the future once they respawn. So that is another reason why you want to kill them while they're still in the cages, if possible, as soon as possible each time you come through. But, having survived the trap, we do get something of a reward for it, 4 blue elixirs, which are still a quite rare item. If we cannot find another way forward, perhaps we could use these blue elixirs to sneak past the oil path, without alerting the Molotov-throwing huntsman at the top. But that's a thought for the future. You can see here that the hitbox of the rifle spear actually extends a bit to your side and behind you. But of more immediate interest to us is this white church set, the counterpart to the black church set. This one is worn by the black-garbed one's superiors, who believe that medicine is not a means of treatment but rather a method for research, and that some knowledge can only be obtained by exposing oneself to sickness. A rather unique philosophy, to be sure, and one very fitting of the healing church. Even more interesting, perhaps, is the fact that this armor set is found in the Forbidden Woods, despite the lack of an apparent healing church presence. We also find one of Yaha Ghul's kidnapping hunters here, suggesting they have an interest in the area as well. If you remember, Alfred had informed us that the old College of Bergenworth, the source of the healing church, lay somewhere deep within a dense tangle of forest. Putting all of these facts together, it is clear that the College of Bergenworth must lie somewhere within the Forbidden Woods here. And perhaps it is there that we shall find the answers we seek. The pale blood that we've been seeking, the pale blood that will allow us to transcend the hunt. Assuming we do not go mad before we get to that point, of course. Here we finally get to the other side of that gate. Once you've killed that hunter, he will not respawn, and so the gate will remain open indefinitely, serving as something of a shortcut. But the main reason to get to this part of the level here is this new item, a hunter tool that requires arcane, the beast roar. The indescribable sound is broadcast with the caster's own vocal cords, which begs the question, what terrible things lurk deep within the frames of men? A heady question, oft uttered by many a moody teenager. Any story implications aside, the Beast Roar item, along with the Hunter Bone item, are useful tools for a hunter investing in arcane knowledge. By consuming Quicksilver bullets, they produce some sort of an effect, typically either utility or directly offensive, and they can act as an excellent support to your melee combat, if used properly. Neither the Beast's Roar nor the Hunter's Bone would come in particularly helpful here, unfortunately. However, though they may not be strictly useful, they can be fun to use. With the Beast Roar, you can knock away two things, the first being lightweight enemies, obviously useful versus crowds of them. The second being projectiles. These range from small ones like the Molotov cocktails this huntsman is lobbing, to ones of much larger size, bigger even than our character's body. But, that aside, it seems we finally come full circle, so to speak, and have arrived back at the oil path, but this time with the Molotov-lobbing huntsman taken out, and freshly restocked with Molotov cocktails of our own, which will make this path far more pleasant than it otherwise would be. The Molotov cocktails that we picked up make quick work of the legless corpses bathing in the oil river here. Oh, and here's that one Molotov-throwing huntsman that we didn't manage to finish off. At last the job is done, and now the area is safe. Relatively speaking. At this point, twin Bloodstone shards are so common that the game is basically calling you an idiot if you don't actually have a +6 weapon at this point. If not multiple +6 weapons, that is. In here we unlock the metal door that we saw in the house a bit ago, opening up a somewhat useful shortcut. If you're to die in the next section, you can just run straight from the lantern, through the village, falling down the trap path that I mentioned before, and running straight through the house, past the dangerous oil river, and easily make it to this part. So let's try out that Hunter's Bone. It is a buff to our dodge move, both the quick step and the roll, increasing the speed at which they occur and reducing the number of frames after the invincibility frames of both animations, basically increasing their effectiveness and the speed at which they occur. Unfortunately, it costs a rather heavy 4 bullets per use, and only lasts for 15 seconds, making its usefulness limited. Something to get an edge over a tough enemy, rather than something you would use frequently. But enough about that, because we have a cannon to deal with. This thing will continually bombard us as long as we're in the area, so we need to dash in and out of the houses to escape the blast radius. But that in itself is not a safe prospect, as the houses are oft filled with enemies who will attempt to ambush you as you come inside. So speed, even more than usual, is essential in this part of the level. Alternatively, you can ignore the houses entirely and just beeline straight from one end to the other and take out the guy manning the cannon. In fact, that's how I usually go through this part of the level, but here I'm exploring a bit more just to show it off. Unfortunately, there's not much interesting going on here, just being the same old enemies as usual, and the items all being consumables that we've picked up before. Beautiful comic justice. We can actually use the cannon ourselves, although it's not terribly useful. The cannonball will only fly a short bit ahead unless you have an enemy to lock onto. So let's head into this darkened building here, and take advice from that huntsman ahead and actually use a torch to light our way. So let's just take out this huntsman then and... Wait a minute. Oh, jeez. You get a little something on your face there, buddy. You want any help with that, or...? Yeah, this enemy type right here is the other main reason why I think this area is very clearly Resident Evil 4 inspired. I can't see this snake-infected huntsman as anything other than a direct reference to the Las Plagas infected villages that you fight in that game. And much like those enemies in that game, they're incredibly dangerous to deal with, probably one of the more dangerous enemy types in the game, but thankfully the rifle spear makes quick work of them, as their danger lies at close range, while the rifle spear can do high damage from a pretty good distance due to its long length, especially with the charged R2 there. In fact, that's the main reason why I chose the rifle spear to be used alongside the stake driver, and not some other weapon in its place. What a dream. Never mind. From Software really seems to have a hard-on for long ladders in their video games, but it really is the worst in Bloodborne. I guess that's a drawback of having levels with a good amount of verticality to them. Oh, is that a survivor? Perhaps so, but he's standing by the corpses of what appear to be a man, a woman, and a child, and what is he doing by that child's corpse? Yeah, that's not suspicious at all, is it? Well, let's talk to the chap then.
Oh, blimey, don't scare me like that. On a night like this, I took you for a monster. Oh, thank the stars, you're fairly normal. Was it you who put down that awful beast? Ooh, that thing had me trembling, frozen in my boots. And then you came along. Well, if you're a hunter, then would you know of any safe havens?
Something tells me it would not be good if we sent this man back to Odin Chapel. So let's send him to Yosefka's.
Well, I'll be. Thank you. It's about time I made a move. I can't very well stay out on my own. Oh, you're giving me hope. Terribly kind of you. Take this. It's all I can offer us, thanks. Thank you. It's about time I made a move. I can't very well stay out on my own.
I'm sure that he and Yosefka will enjoy each other's company. There seem to be a fair few bloodstains on this roof here, ones with rather interesting deaths, not ones to gravity, as you would expect, or at least not in the traditional sense, going up instead of down. I wonder what all that's about. Hopefully, we won't find out. But heading back into the windmill here, we've explored all of the upper reaches, so let's head back down and pick up a rather snazzy item along the way. The cannon. This little number is a sidearm consuming a massive amount of quicksilver bullets, 12 per shot, and requiring a massive 30 strength as well as 13 skill in order to even wield it, but it boasts amazingly high amounts of damage. And as the description states, against impossibly gigantic foes, it might be just the thing. It'll be a while before we have the stats to wield it, but something to look forward to, if nothing else. There's no way to get down below without dropping. Fortunately, the falls are short enough as to not be lethal, or even all that damaging. Here you might be thinking, oh, a shortcut, and you'd be correct, but not for now, but for later. For getting from here to a later point in the Forbidden Woods, not from here back to the lantern at the start. Here we have another infested huntsman, and what if he didn't have a weapon effective at dealing with them at a distance like the rifle spear? How would you fight these guys? Staying close is dangerous because they deal immense amounts of damage in very quick amounts of time with their flailing snakeheads. As such, the safest and most effective way of taking them out is to try and bait out a physical attack from them that you can then stagger out of them and one-shot them with a visceral attack, especially if you have high skill boosting your visceral attack damage. Heading forward, it's clear that we've only explored part of the Forbidden Woods as a whole so far, and there's still quite a bit of area left to travel through. But before we do that, let's head back a bit and actually open up a useful shortcut for us. The windmill at the start of the area right beside the lantern, the first truly useful shortcut we've come across. Now that we've dealt with these asshole crows here, let's talk to this man by the lantern, see what he has to offer us.
Ah, a new face, are you? And an accomplished hunter, it would appear. I am Volta, Master of the League. Members of the League cleanse the streets of all the filth that's spread about during the hunt. Like any half-decent hunter ought to, you know? Haven't you seen enough of these wretched beasts? Freakish slugs and mad doctors. Sentence these fiends to death with the help of your League confederates. What do you say? Why not join the League?
Who could say no to an offer like that?
Yes, as a hunter well should. Commit this to heart. Our own Carol rune, symbol of the League. The night brims with defiled scum and is permeated by their rotten stench. Just think, now you're all set to hunt and kill to your heart's content. Hunt in cooperation with your fellows, your League confederates. Now, there is one thing you must know. By the oath of the League, those who bear its rune will see vermin. Vermin writhe deep within all filth and are the root of man's impurity. All vermin are to be crushed. The League exists to expunge all vermin, ridding us of any trace of human corruption. And so, until we are rid of all vermin, you must continue to hunt and kill. This bloody fate is ours alone. Do not expect the world to grasp our work. But remember, the Confederates will always have my blessing. And each other. Always.
Sounds like a grand old time.
Exists to expunge all
To wit,
vermin.
this is the first example of a covenant in this game,
Corruption.
a returning feature from the Dark Souls series.
You must continue to hunt.
By equipping the Impurity rune that Volta gave us, we become a Confederate of the League, capable of summoning other Confederates to aid against the nasty beasts and mad doctors that are strewn about, which is to say, additional NPCs that can be summoned to fight against bosses and enemies. So let's return to the Hunter's Dream and get that rune equipped. As an aside, I will not be summoning all of the NPCs that the League adds for our use, because it adds quite a few of them, and I have no desire to cheese all of the bosses in the game. Covenant runes are oath runes, and so go in the special 4th reserved slot. Vermin writhe within filth, and are the root of man's impurity. Crush all vermin without hesitation. There are certainly worse codes to live one's life by, and with that, we'll leave it off. So goodbye, my fair Confederates, and good hunting to you all.